Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, today I have Jackson Dickfuss on the line, and he's a principal capital formation over at Prytaneum Partners. And this episode is part of our Super Return International Berlin series, where we're bringing you the best of those that attended and participated in Super Return over in Berlin. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Adam, great to connect. Thanks for inviting us. I really appreciate it.
All right, so got a lot to talk about today. So I'm excited to get into the overall topic why the next great private equity returns will come from operational complexity, not financial engineering. So super interested and want to dive into that with you. But before we get into that, Super Return Berlin, man, tell me about the experience. Have you been part of Super Return in the past? Like, give me some of the backstory.
Yeah, actually, our very first one, ads really enjoyed it. For us, the synopsis was it doesn't really get much better than that. 7,000 attendees, bunch of LPs, bunch of GPs, placement agents, service providers, everybody, the who's who, and everybody to know. Right in one room across a number of days, we had so many conversations. We certainly got an enormous amount of value of it. And everybody we spoke to the same. So actually, one of the things we spoke about straight after the event finished was how many we're going to in the future. That's how much value we got out of it. We loved the event. We're going to go to a fair few coming up, mate. So we loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of what they're doing in the community overall. And that number 7,000, geez, it's like a Disneyland for finance, right?
Precisely. All good people too. I think,
Yeah,
that's the other thing is like all looking to do their own thing and connecting for different reasons, but great humans, which makes a difference, Adam.
absolutely. So personally, like, how'd you get into this space? Like, how'd you start off in this space?
So in PE for the last sort of 5, 6 years, our management team and themselves have been working together for 5, 6 years, doing exactly what we're doing right now. Actually, we're raising our first fund, but our management team has been operating together successfully under a different umbrella, doing exactly what we're doing now. So that's really exciting. Pre that, my whole landscape was startup land. Straight out of university for about 5, 6 years before PE. I was just failing miserably and then succeeding every now and then, as the story goes, and getting a lot
Absolutely.
wrong and then getting a couple right. And that led me into PE land with a billionaire out of Austin, Texas, which is where this operational team actually all met. So all different backgrounds, GPs, banking experience, all sorts of different large corporations. But for me, it was startups in China, Australia, obviously, and the UK. But yeah, that's the reason and the how of YPE.
What do you like about working like with startups, with companies, with things like this? What do you like about that?
Oh, I'm addicted to it, Adam. I'll be honest with you. It's this obsessive culture of just the next best thing and being a part of it and having your hands on it and being able to influence what the next generation of folks are going to use. For me, sometimes I initially started because I thought it would be awesome to have my family use something that I was creating, and then that just went into a whole world of maybe it's my community, then city, then country, and then people that I cared about in the vertical I was working in. And is there a better landscape at the moment, particularly in the last
Yeah,
10 years
yeah.
than tech? Like, it's hard not to be involved.
That's
Is
exciting.
is
Things
my
are
answer.
moving,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
you mentioned you're doing in the middle of a race. Tell us about Practinium Partners.
Yeah, so we're a spin out. I mentioned before, this exact team has been working together and doing this exact model, a very similar playbook, really successfully under a different umbrella for about 6 to 7 years. And we are software rehabilitation experts. So we're quite different than the traditionalist GP. We're technically in the bucket of emerging managers. However, like I said, the team's actually been just doing this just under a different
Right.
umbrella, but it's our first fund under this name. And we have been building for the last 2 years our operational infrastructure, which we can talk a little bit about later on. And before we started raising intentionally, and we just started raising about 2 months ago, hence going to Super Return Berlin. So that's our little story. We're experts at stepping into complexity, which is quite unique. We don't go after perfect companies, which is against the norm. Not the beautiful, shiny, year-on-year growth companies.
Yeah, yeah.
We're turnaround specialists. We go into companies that are under-optimized. Maybe there's some leadership gaps, certainly some execution issues, and we're experts at turning those around and finding our great source of return through that process. So that's what we do. We've been doing this for a very long time, and we've been building for this before raising for the last 2 years.
Can you give me an example? It doesn't have to be for a particular company, by the way, but when you say, and for example, your thesis that it's not going to necessarily come from some of the best returns aren't going to come from financial engineering, but it's going to be from some improving some of this operational complexity. Like, can you give us an example of what that can look like when you're entering a company? It can be a hypothetical, it can be an actual, whatever you like, but like, can you give me an example of what that could look like to improve operational complexity to the point to where it's a meaningful, return?
It's such a good question, and there are so many
Hmm.
answers to the question. Some that we deal with all the time, some structure complexities. Sometimes it's technological pressure. Sometimes it's a lack of AI implementation. So it's leadership progression and progressiveness that's become the problem. Sometimes it's a lot, we talk about the private equity market in the last 10 years, is growth at all costs. That type of playbook has given birth to a lot of companies now that grew really quickly. The software creation piece is not what's scarce anymore. What's scarce is operational competence, now running businesses in different environments, geopolitical landscape. Things have got a little tougher. The returns are a little harder to come by. So operational judgment really matters in this market. And often leadership has been really good when there's a lot of capital, and capital has been easy to come by, or what we call cheap capital. And when that slows down, you've really got to get your hands on. Financially led engineering, or what we call financially led engineering, isn't getting the job done anymore to provide that return. You've really got to structure up. And another example that we come across is like, raised so quickly, the scale up had 20 offices in Sydney, London, Berlin, Tokyo, and really could have run a lot of that operation remotely. So there's so many cost optimizations that can be done in those pieces. And then one of the other things that we do that's quite unique is a shared services platform. So whether we have 5 companies or 17 companies, we actually have the one finance team or the one product team. We don't have 17 product teams and 17 finance teams. So shared services, and that means every company that we have, the margin gets even better because we have the same team operating the same amount of companies, no matter whether it's 3 or 20. So there are a couple of examples of what we do, and we've been doing this for a long time, and it works, but that's not easy because you've got to get hands on. You can't.
And you gotta get buy-in from the founders to like that can't be. I'm just thinking in my
Correct.
head like that's got to be so tricky. You got a head of product or head of this, that, whatever. And now you're like, but ultimately, when somebody's the right fit, or I mean, the right company is the right fit, you could just visualize it, right? Like, oh, this is gonna add gasoline to the fire. This can in some circumstances, you like not overnight, but you know what I mean, like really quickly, depending on what the implementation is, can make a huge difference. I can see
You're
it.
all over it. You're all over it. You're absolutely right. Actually, it's another one of the things that we do quite differently. That's so difficult to do, Adam, to influence so many stakeholders. One of the things that we do is really differently is we take 100% control. We will buy the company outright to make the restructure decisions we have to make. Really difficult to influence leadership the other way. In fact, that's why turnarounds and turnaround specialists are so hard to come by, because
Absolutely.
influencing C-suite, sometimes they're stuck in their ways. God love them. And, they've built the company up. They've seen things work that don't work now, but that's really hard to step away and say, well, now we're going to do everything differently. And you'd be surprised, sometimes we see a lot also in the acquisitions we've done over the last number of years, is it also means you've got to admit that you're wrong about that. And that's hard to do. I mean, we all struggle with that. So there's reasons that some are really obvious and some are not so obvious why the current leadership can't turn it around themselves. And that's got to do with sometimes just their own prejudice and their own bias, and also what they did to grow the company to a stage. But now it's in a different situation, in a different market, and we're really good at coming in and doing that. So we take 100% control. It makes a lot of sense. And the restructure, then we can't do what we do without that control. So it makes us a little bit different on that lens as well.
For sure. It just comes down to, do you want to add some zeros or not, baby? No, I know you didn't say that, but I'm saying it.
It's all
or you can keep on going at what you're going for the next 10 years, or let's do it now.
And that's it. That's the thing we see, and we're like,
that's the story right there.
Yeah. Do you want to get something out of it? And I mean, do you want to get something out of it now, or we're going to wait 171 days till your terminal event, which we track as well? We have proprietary that tracks around that. It's like, you want to wait till you go bankrupt and then the bank doesn't get anything, your shareholders and your investors don't get anything, so it's going to be hard to invest in your next venture, and then you guys, the founders, don't get anything, or want to do a deal now before no one's going to be interested in buying. So
and when it's a win, while it's still a win for everybody concerned, not a distressed asset. Yeah.
Precisely.
So, okay, we talked a bit about the founder side of things. I'm curious about the other side of things. So the actual capital. So what are you looking for in an anchor LP or that side of things? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, Regarding the Right Anchor LP or any LP we want to
Yeah.
work with for any of our future funds for that matter, for us, it's someone who understands that complexity can be the greatest source of return when it's approached with discipline and real operating capability. Turnaround specialists that really know what they're doing and been doing it for a long time. We're looking for LPs who can see the size of that opportunity in this market. And I'll touch on it a little bit. Is, as you can imagine, AI plays a role with this. The disruption that has happened with software and is happening, whether people want to believe it or not, the restructure has started.
Absolutely.
And in the next handful of years, we're already seeing with the software, our proprietary tech that we track, over 200,000 companies daily. We have their results and their financial information coming daily. And that number is getting very big very quickly. And that's because more software companies are, they're increasingly under optimized and need to move with the times. And of course, that's really difficult. And that there's more that are not than those that are, obviously. And what that means is there is a ridiculous opportunity. The enormity of the opportunity is scary of how many of these are going to be great acquisitions because they have great bones ads. They're good businesses. They just have execution problems or they just haven't quite nailed the AI piece. And it just allows us there's so much opportunity to grab those. Out of the 200,000, to give you an idea, we have 77 companies right now that are on the table that we look at that are in our mandate. They are absolutely cherry picked, juicy for what we need and what we usually buy and turn around. And that number grows every single day. Now, we had one come through this morning and so we just get notified it comes up. So we're looking for LPs that look at this, and we had a number in Super Return Berlin, which is why we're so excited on the next few weeks, is who look at that and go, yep, I got you. I see that the complexity and buying companies that need rehabilitation, there's actually a greater chance of return than the tech bro pipe dream idea. Let's raise a fund and go after it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm all about that. But this is a different strategy and they're looking for diversified scenarios in their portfolio. And we are certainly one of those.
Now, some of what you just said right now, I'm just curious, are you getting some of that data, or was that like conversations that took place at Super Return, like where you're like, oh, this is validating what we're doing in the market shifting? Is that where a piece of that came from? I'm curious.
Yeah, all of it. Beforehand, bits and pieces, I think we had, but there was just no substitute. I mentioned at the top of the call is that we had something like between the three of us that we had 520 conversations. So a lot more.
That's almost like as many as my podcast, man.
We had more conversations in 1 week than we've had in 6 months. So that tells you everything you need to know about how important the events are and how much everybody who's serious in the space should be getting to these. We saw this coming a long time ago, but the sample data is what was very validating and exciting for us. And what we saw is the clearest signal from Berlin is this: LPs are becoming much more discerning. The sessions, the talks, the keynotes, and then obviously the one-on-ones. Their question is no longer just, who has a good track record. It is who can actually create value in this particular environment. And that is a very different question. So for a long time, as you know, private equity, it benefited from cheap capital, multiple expansions, and strong exit markets. Well, those factors covered a lot of weakness. And today, they don't cover those weaknesses. So capital is more expensive, exits are slower. This is what they keep saying. This is what we keep hearing. Growth is harder to underwrite. And money companies need hands-on operational work that we're talking about. And that completely changes, if you think about that, what a great GP and what a great manager looks like. So we know now the next cycle won't be won by financial engineering alone. It'll be won by managers who can operate inside that complexity. So that's what we're looking for, people who understand that. And the complexity is you got to be able to stabilize companies. You got to be able to improve execution, and you've got to be able to sharpen strategy and make businesses more resilient under hard market conditions. When the returns aren't just coming to the GP and the market's not doing the work for you, you've really got to get your hands dirty. So that's what Super Return confirmed for us. So we just heard this over and over again from LPs, and they've validated what we've been building for the last 2 years. But the other thing is speed to cash. Like, they're discerned about. Often we kept hearing the DPI 1X getting there in 7 years on average. That's just not good enough anymore. They are a little frustrated by that. The capital's not coming back to them soon enough. So, that's not going away. They're not going to be happy with that figure, or that's not like it's going to get kicked out any further. They're going to want their capital back quicker and quicker, ads. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Love it. Jackson, this has been a lot of fun having you on and learning more about the model and what you're doing over at Prytanium Partners. Great stuff. How do people, if they're listening to this, watching this, and they want to follow up, they want to learn more, they want to connect with you and your team, how do they do that?
Oh, I appreciate it, man. We're LinkedIn, guys, and gals, we love that. So LinkedIn's the easiest way. We got a website, www.pritaniumpartners.com. It'll share a little bit about our thesis as well. So really easy to contact on LinkedIn or the website, and we certainly welcome that. And not just LPs. Yes, we're looking for our anchor, our first fund, but as you mentioned at the top of the call, the conversations we've had with GPs and people in the industry, the conversations are always welcome because they're liberating. And we're learning lots ourselves by just having conversations with anybody. So we will welcome a conversation with anybody. We love that.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put that links and contact info in the show notes. So you can just click on it, head right on over, connect with Jackson and his team. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow. And Jackson, man, appreciate all you do. And thanks again for coming on.
Real pleasure, Adam. Thanks so much.